Okay, and imagine you're writing a code, and how will your first line of your code will look like this? Like this: function result is equal to this function argument 1 comma argument 2. Okay, this is just a simple example. Okay, but now in the next slide we'll see what it is. Like we are using this something called as function result. We are using some this kind of an operator. We are using a name called this function. We are using some arguments, but we should know what it is, isn't it? So those things all will be dealt in the next slide. But this is about a basic understanding about functions. Okay. See, in this slide, if you're just going to watch it, imagine you want to define a function. How do you try to do is, if the function is function f, as you just watch this diagram, it has to go with the input. You need an input for a function to work, right? And your input is x. Okay. And when you're going to use a function, how your output is going to be is your output will be f of x. I hope you understood, because your input is x, your function is f. When you're including a function in the program, how your output will be is your output will be f of x. Okay, so this is how a function works in a program. You need to define the input, you need to define the function parameter, so that the function output will be a f of x. Okay, this is a simple diagram. And yeah, we'll now go into some features of functions. Okay, some general features of functions. What they mean to tell us, functions can be defined online or offline. Okay, either you can use the functions in online mode, or also you can use the functions in offline mode. Okay. Second thing is arguments. Arguments can be any Scilab objects. See, we are dealing with the Scilab, or you call it MATLAB, whatever you want, because we are accustomed with Scilab, isn't it, coding? So the arguments can be any Scilab objects. And the one more feature of function is more than one output arguments can also be there. Okay, so when you develop the code, you will come to know how it is. Okay, more than one output arguments can also be there. This is considered to be the features of functions. And the inputs or the output arguments can be functions. Okay, whatever things we are using as an input, and whatever thing which is coming out of as an output arguments can be functions. And the last thing is, functions can be nested. Okay, but what is nested? People who are already into coding, you know something about nested. What is nested is, see, this nested describes the code that performs a particular function, and that is contained within the code that performs a broader function. Okay, see, what they mean to tell is, see, nested will define a code, right? And what we'll have is, it will have a particular function, but that function, what it will do is, it will perform a broader function, right? And the best example I can give you is parentheses in arithmetic expressions. See, imagine you are using an expression, but inside that expression, what you'll try to do is, you'll use so many parentheses. You know what's a parenthesis, isn't it? So inside one parenthesis, you'll be using multiple parentheses. So like that, what we try to do is, we'll be using multiple parentheses in arithmetic expressions. Okay, so that thing is called as a nested do loop. Okay, in programming it is called as nested do loop, and that is what the meaning of nested. Okay, I hope you understood. Parentheses in arithmetic expressions is an example of nested. So the functions can be nested. Okay, so that is one big feature of functions. Okay, okay, and imagine if you are developing with C++. There are two types of functions in C++. One is called as built-in functions. Okay. The other one is user-defined functions. Right. Built-in functions are already available in the library file. You can just pick that and you can use it in the function. Whereas these user-defined functions, you have to clearly define in the program, like these type of functions are going to be used. Okay, so this is about the basics of C++. You don't worry much about writing a code in C or C++. We are not going to write a code in C or C++. We are going to develop a code in MATLAB, but for that, a basic understanding of these things is required. Okay, so literally don't feel like I need to write too much of code in this. It's just the basics of understanding of functions. Okay, so I just can't directly go into a function in MATLAB. So I'm just taking the background of C and C++. Okay, so this is about the types of functions. Okay, yeah. Now, see, we are discussing about functions, isn't it? But for the function, it should have a syntax. So now what we are going to check out is the function syntax. Okay. Yeah, just watch here. In the previous example, what we have seen is you have used the name function y1 comma y2 is equal to my function x1 comma x2. Okay, imagine like this we are defining a function, right? And this function is nothing but a keyword, and you all know what's a keyword, isn't it? We have been working with Scilab, so we know what's a keyword, and people already into programming languages, you know what's a keyword. Okay, so this function is a keyword. I hope we're able to see the color change, right? This is red color. All keywords will be differentiated with some other colors. Okay, and this y1 comma y2 are nothing but the return variables. Okay, what variables need to be returned. Okay, and is equal to my function. This is nothing but the function name. Imagine you are going to use a function, and for that function you need to give a name, isn't it? So this my function is nothing but the function name, and this x1 comma x2 is nothing but the function arguments. Okay, what all arguments you're going to use in the code? This is nothing but you have to give it in this parenthesis. Return variables, you have to give it in this bracket. Okay, okay, close bracket. And whereas your function arguments, you have to give it in this parenthesis, right? And finally, what you have to do is, and this entire part is called as the function content. Whatever we are using here, we are talking about function, isn't it? So this entire part is called as this function content, but you have to end this function, right? Because the function will be keeping on running. How do you do is use a command called as end function. Okay, so just watch here. You're able to see the keyword, isn't it? The color change. This end function is also a keyword, so that is why this function and end function are with the same color. Whereas this my function, it is not a keyword; it's a function name. That is why it is in somewhat a black kind of a color. Okay, so different things you can make out whenever you're typing a code. Maybe probably you would have some people would have worked in Turbo C or Visual C++ or whatever. Okay, people who have already worked in coding, you will know how this what is it, keywords and color changes are occurring. Okay, so as I said, this part function content is called as the function definition. This end function is a keyword. Again, this function is a keyword. This y1 comma y2 are the return variables, and this my function is the function name, and this x1 comma x2 are the function arguments. Okay, this is the very basic notation of how a function is being used in a programming language. Okay, and another example. Okay, another example, right? They are using this maybe a definition y1 comma y2. It goes on is equal to my function x1 comma x2 y1 is equal to it goes. I hope we're able to make out the difference. This you can use it as a nested. Okay, and I hope you are able to see. Okay, probably so many parentheses, so many things. If you want, you can use a nested do loop. Okay, so again, this def is the keyword. Just watch with the arrow. This is the keyword. This y1 comma y2 is the return variables. Okay, whatever variables you're going to return. Okay, and this my function is the function name. I hope we're able to see with the arrow indication. This my function is the function name. This x1 comma x2 it goes. This is your function arguments. Okay, and this y1 is equal to, you have it over here. Okay, this is your function. I mean, this operator you have, isn't it? So this is your function definition, and this all together, whatever you are using is called as a string. Okay, we have already studied about the string in our first unit, right? And the basic knowledge already you will have. This everything is called as a string. Okay, so this is one basic example of a function. How do you function syntax? How do you define it? Okay, and now we watch this just a small example. Function with one output parameter. Okay, imagine I'm using a function. It is function a is equal to my function x comma y, right? And what operation this has to do is x has to be multiplied with y. Okay, and how do you define it? Inside the function itself, you are defining the function name is a, isn't it? So a is equal to x into y. So what we have to do is we have to multiply this x with y, and this has to be stored in a. Okay, so this is a function. This is an example of a function with one output parameter, and this has to end off. Okay, so that is why it is called as an, and you have to end it with an end function. Okay, so this is one small program which tells about the function with one output parameter. Okay, next is we'll go into conditioning. Okay, so till now what we have seen is we have seen the basics of function. We have seen how do you define a function and what is the syntax of function. Okay, so like this, we just break down our topic into one by one subtopics. Okay, yeah. So before going into this conditioning, we just break out ourselves with a small video. Okay, the next one, what we are going to watch is the video which we are going to watch now is it's about a battery-free sensor. Okay, but yeah, we don't have a battery-free sensor. You can ask me what could be the specialty in this battery-free sensor, sir? But this battery-free sensor which we are going to use now is for underwater exploration. Okay, the biggest million-dollar question or billion-dollar question is, see, whenever you are putting a device underwater, right? What you need is you can't make the device to stay for so much long because it needs a supply, isn't it? Right? It needs a battery source. Okay. So for that problem, what the researchers thought is we'll use the technology of IoT, Internet of Things. Right? We'll do something of IoT, Internet of Things, and we'll just dump our sensor underwater. But how do they provide the supply? The answer is this. Okay, so now we'll watch a video how they are how the researchers are going to work on underwater exploration. Okay, so we'll just go into this video. Okay, so I think we have just seen something about this video. See, I'm not going to talk much about this because it talks something about physics, piezoelectric. Any of the students want to touch on this topic? What was this video about?
I just didn't get one thing, that is it charging or is it returning back the electrical
No, no,
energy?
no, no, no. Yes, I'm putting the question to you. You don't revert back the question to me. I am just putting a question to you. I just want anyone to explain the video or I will play it again. That's what was my question.
So
Yes.
what I understood was that they were
Okay.
trying to make some, they were trying to make something that which would benefit the underwater understanding as well as
Uh,
in more
okay.
physical life too. Like they could be used for such as hydroelectricity type things.
Okay.
These
But the
type
thing
of
is,
technologies.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The biggest thing is something about charging. They had an answer for charging also, yes. See, we can't keep a device without charging for so much time underwater, isn't it? And they had an
Yes,
answer
so
in
they
this
were
video.
generating the charging. They were generating the waves to charge it.
Okay, fine. So Yash has some questions. Anyone who, Yash, can you repeat the question? What was your query so that
So my
others can
question
give a
was
try
that
on that?
is it only charging or is it also reverting back the electrical energy?
It
Because
is
sir,
doing
if
both,
it's
I guess.
reverting
Was
back, the
there? Yeah, Pranav. Yeah, go ahead.
So, as what shown in the video, when the charge gets over, the waves charge
Yeah.
it. Like they have built up some technology that converts waves into electrical energy.
Okay, so the conversion of electrical energy is there, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sir. That's what it is seen
it's
in the
what's seen in the
video.
video. And the technology they use is something kind of piezoelectric effect, right? You would have already heard about it, piezoelectric.
Not actually,
Okay,
sir.
It
fine.
converts
Okay.
mechanical something to electrical. It's
Electrical,
only
the conversion is there, right?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Mechanical energy to electrical
the
energy.
mechanism is changing, sir. From the waves, they are changing the mechanism. So that's what my question was. That if it's reverting back the electrical energy, they could be used as a hydroelectrical system to
No, no,
generate
yes,
electricity.
yes, yes. I think it is there, isn't it? When the conversion is occurring, obviously that electrical energy can be utilized, right?
Yes, sir. So if it's happening, they could be used as a hydroelectrical
Okay.
electricity generator.
Yeah, that is true. It's like, see, if you have some additional information on this, you can get some videos also, it can be shared. Okay, I just put a seed on how to understand these things, yes, isn't it?
Okay, sir.
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. Pranav, Hari, yes, thank you. Okay, any other students you want to have a talk on this? Okay, fine. Right, so I'll just go back into
So,
functions. Yes, Priyansh, tell me, Priyansh.
about its ability, it says that it absorbs the water waves and then it conducts
Hmm.
it into electricity. But then, what about the
Right.
intensity of the waves? Would the battery blast if the wave intensity of the wave is too high, or
Yeah,
if
yeah.
the intensity of the wave
Uh,
is too
So they are not
low?
using
It won't.
batteries in that one. It's not saying that instead of battery they use that wave and
yeah,
convert into
yeah.
electrical energy.
That is true. They don't use a direct battery, I do hope, in the video. That's what I do feel, isn't it, Hari? Right?
They are saying instead of batteries, no.
Yeah, okay.
So rather, it was shown that the waves were vibrating it and then it was generating the electricity.
Yeah, Bhavya, okay.
The intensity of the wave would also determine how it responds, right?
Oh, if the waves or currents are strong, you mean to tell there'll be some explosion kind of stuff. That's what you mean to tell, Priyansh, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. Just check it out. Just check it out. Even
So,
something we because yeah.
so I
Yeah,
found an
Pranav.
article on net about piezoelectric, and it's
Uh,
told that basically when there's some stress applied on solid objects, some
okay.
charge gets accumulated on them, and they are basically using that to that accumulated charge to produce electricity in it.
That is really true. I'll give you a very basic example of piezoelectric students. Imagine you are sitting on a chair, okay, and suddenly if you get up, you will feel some vibration or some shock in your body. Have you realized that when you sit for a long time on a chair, sometimes you get numb and you get up, you get some effect on your body, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
that is that is really called as a piezoelectric effect, right? Even what they mean to tell us, our body is also a conductor, right? So in that way, they are using those applications. So I think. probably you can gather some news. I thought you have studied this in your physics about piezoelectric, but I'm not sure whether that has come in your curriculum, isn't it? Okay, so the silence says like it is new for you, right? So it's like, see, I've given some thing which you can really excavate, and if you found some really new things, we can just also share. Okay, so okay, fine. So we shall just go back into the subject presentation. Okay, so now we are done with functions. We are moving into a little bit about conditioning. Okay, conditions. So it is there in the name, conditions. It's a decision. Okay, so just there is something called as conditional statement. What is this conditional statement is? Conditional statement, we understand the execution of a statement only if a condition or a set of conditions is true. Okay, so imagine if your instruction is true, then only the statement will execute, right? That is called as a conditional statements. And I do have some example of conditional statements. Just watch here. If a person's age is below 18, it is forbidden to drive a car, isn't it? See, it's a condition. If you are below 18, you shouldn't take your car. You can't apply for LLR. I mean, if you're below 18, you can't do that. Okay. So that is one example of a conditional statement. The other example which I just carried over here is, if the air temperature is above 30 degrees Celsius, the weather is very hot. Okay, so like that, just some basic parameters I just said. If it's above 30 degrees Celsius, the weather is very hot. But this is all conditional statements, but how do we use it in a program? Okay, that is what we are going to check, right? So how do we use this conditional statements in a program? We are going to check now. Yeah. And the first example under conditional statement is, there is something called as a if-else statements. Okay, people already knowing the programming language, you'll know this. Okay, if-else conditional statement. If condition underscore one, okay, then instructions underscore one, right? This is about the condition is if, and else the default instructions will be loaded, right? We'll check out in this program, but this is the syntax of if else. First, if condition underscore one, if is a keyword, then is a keyword, right? Then instructions, else it will go for default instructions. This is called as a if else conditional statement. And what you have to do is, you have to end this if else loop. It's a loop statement, they call it loop. How do you end this? You should use an end command. I hope you're able to see these are all keywords. If, then, else, end are all keywords. So this will be automatically recognized by a compiler. Okay. So this is a syntax for if else conditional statements. Okay. And now I do have an example for if else. Just watch here. The current hour is 14. Okay, that is what have been said. The current hour value is set as 14. In the if statement, we are including some parameters. Okay, if current hour is greater than 7 and current hour is less than 20. Okay, then outside is equal to day. Okay, so if the current hour value is greater than 7, that is current hour we have said it is 14. If 14 is greater than 7 and current hour, again current hour is 14, 14 is less than 20, then what happens? The output is, the outside is day, else outside is not day. I hope you're able to understand. If this value is not matching, if the value is matching, it will be as day. Okay. And if these values are not matching, you have to use a else statement. It is not day. Okay. End. So what it will is, it will display current hour, it will display outside else. That is what a simple basic program of a if and a else statement. Okay. You need, if it's like this is how the compiler will understand. What you have to do is, you have to use this if else statement, but this brackets and parentheses and other stuff are very important. You just can't just like the type of program. Even if you know the logic, you have to go it in a syntactical way. This is your syntax for something called as a hover. Okay. The next is if, else, if. See, previously we have seen if, else. Now we are going to see the next statement. It is if, else, if. Okay, and just get the difference between this if and else if. Just watch here. If condition underscore 1, then instructions underscore 1. Okay, imagine first condition, second condition. Okay, else if condition underscore 2, then instructions underscore 2. Maybe still some looping statements are going on. And finally, else if condition underscore n, then instructions underscore n. Okay, so this is like the syntax goes. And finally, if this is not matching up, it will go for the else statement, else default instructions, and the program will end. This is the syntax for if and else if. But how we are going to understand this is by matching this programming languages in the code. Okay, once when we develop a code, then only we can understand how this if, else, if conditional statements are working. Okay, so now what we are going to do is we are going to match this if, else, if conditional statement in the code. Now I am going to move to the code. Okay, just watch this. Imagine this is your question. Okay, in the question, what they mean to tell us, they want you to develop a program using the statements if, else for kind of stuff. Okay, and the schedule what they are given for the program is it's 8 to 10 a.m. it is project meetings, 10 to 12 it is training, 12 to 12:30 is lunch break, 12:30 to 16 is project development, and 16 to 8 is free time. Okay, so imagine this is a corporate's schedule. They are giving you this program schedule. But what they want you to do is they want you to write, they want you to develop a code for this question. They just simply give you this. Okay, they just simply give you this. And what you have to do is you have to develop a code, a program. We'll see how the program is working out. Okay, so this is the thing. Just watch the program. Yeah. Okay, what we are doing is the current hour is we have set it as 9. Okay, so from the program itself you can understand we are setting the current hour as 9. And what you have to do is you have to start your statement with if, else if, and finally you have to print the output as else. Okay, we have to define all this function, right? Because the function is it is project meetings first, second the activity is project meeting, the second activity is training, the third activity is lunch break, and the fourth activity is project development, and finally it is free time. But what we have to do is we have to make the code to understand all these things, and it has to be printed. Okay, just watch the coding. The current hour is set as 9, right? And the first parameter is we have to display project meetings. But how do you do it? If current hour is greater than 8 and current hour is less than or equal to 10. So the meaning is 9 is greater than 8 because we are setting the current hour to be 9. If current 9 is greater than 8 and 9 is less than or equal to 10, what will be displayed is it should be project meetings. This is first parameter. We are completed with the first parameter. Second parameter, else if, okay, if this is not the condition, if it is moving for the next condition, that is else if current hour is greater than 10 and current hour is less than or equal to 12, then what should be displayed is it should display activity training. Okay, so this part of training is over. We are going to go into the next phase. Okay, else if current hour is greater than 12 and current hour is less than or equal to 12:30, right? So they are defining as 12.3. Then what it has to display? It has to display activity as lunch break. Okay, because I think 12 to 12:30 is defined as lunch break in the question, I hope. Okay, the next is, but still the activity is not yet over. Else if current hour is greater than 12:30 and current hour is less than or equal to 16. I think this is between 12:30 to 16. Okay, and what should be displayed in your output is it should be displayed as project development. Okay, we are done with project meetings of schedule. We are done with activity training schedule. We are done with lunch break schedule. We are done with project development schedule. But it is not yet over in the question, isn't it? We have one more time, and what is that? It is free time, right? If all this being executed, it comes in else if, or else what it should do is it should display a free time. Okay, like this you have to develop a code. Okay, like this the code will be developed. And finally, how you do is, as I said, you have to end the conditional loop, isn't it? By using the end statement. Okay, so this is how you use a if, else if, and else. Okay, so this is an example. See, there are lots of examples. People who are already good into coding, this they will feel like a simple stuff. Okay, you can get a lot of examples from Google. You can browse it and you can have a basic understanding. I just want to touch something about how it is being worked. Okay, so this is about if, else if, and else. Okay, and the next is select case. See, there is something called as a case statements, right? We are done with simple statements. We are going into the next level, right? But why do we go for case? We should understand, isn't it? If the control variable has multiple states for a better structure and readability of the code, it is better to use select case instead of if else conditional statements. I hope you're clear with this. See, we want a still refined output. Imagine there are multiple states. Okay, imagine you are using a variable and it has multiple states, right? But you want to have a better knowledge about developing the code. So at the time, what you can do is you can skip this if else if conditional statement. Instead of if else if conditional statement, what you can go for is you can go for the statement select case. Okay, so and the syntax is, I hope you're able to see the keyword. Select is a keyword. Select control variable. Okay, and this case is also a keyword. Okay, case value 1, and then you have to define the instructions. Again, then is a keyword. Okay, the next line. Imagine you have multiple values. Case value 2, then instruction 2. Okay, you have multiple values and multiple instruction, it keeps on going. Okay, and finally it is case value end, then instructions end. Imagine the values also ending, the instructions are also ending. Okay, and finally what you have to do is, if this is being executed, it has to go to the last state. What you have to do is you have to use else, right? Instead of if else if, we are using select case and else default instructions. You have to end the syntax of the select case, go with the end. Okay, so this is the syntax of a select case. So now what we'll do is we'll just check out the select case in the form of an example. Okay, we'll just watch. Yeah, just watch this. See, we want to develop hex. Okay, S hex is equal to A. Okay, and we need to use a select statement, isn't it? So we do use a select statement. It is case A. Case A, it has to display 10. I think you know the equivalent of A. It is 0 to 9, you will have the binary equivalent. I think it will go for 10, it goes for 1 0, isn't it? Right. Okay, case B is 11. Okay, the equivalent of B is 11. The equivalent of C is 12. The equivalent of D is 13. The equivalent of E is 14. The equivalent of F is 15. Okay, so till this, you will have the hex values, right? The hex value gets ended with this. Till this, it will display the hex values. But if it is crossing beyond that, okay, it has to end off, isn't it? So we do use an else. It will display. Imagine you are giving us some other value. It will display. It is not a hexadecimal, or it is not a hex alpha numeric character. Okay, I hope you're able to understand. This is with respect to your digital. Okay, you all know a binary, a octal value, a decimal value, a hexadecimal value. Okay, hex gets ends off with 15, isn't it? So it will display, what it will display is not a hex alphanumeric character, and you have to end this statement with end. Okay, this is for a case statement. I hope you are able to get the difference, because when it is multiple statements, it becomes difficult using if else if. Okay, so at the time, what you can do is you can go for the select case statements. This is the one more advantage, because see, whenever you are going for an interview or something, how the interviewer will judge you is, imagine you are being given to write a code, and you and your friend, you are being developing a code. Okay, and the question is being given. Imagine if your friend is developing the program in 10 lines, and if you are developing the same program in 15 lines, obviously the job preference will go for your friend. Okay, I hope you're able to understand. Whatever thing you are developing, it should be of the minimum level of the code, and also it shouldn't occupy more memory. Okay, so this is about select case. Okay, so the next is case with then, right? There is a still more things which goes with another statement. How do you use then? Okay, so it is again the same syntax. We are going for the same example, right? Just watch here. It is just here we don't use a then statement. Whereas here we use a then statement. That is the only difference. Or again, we are going for the hex. Case A, then display 10. Case B, then display 11. Case C, case D, case F. If this is over, you have to go for the else. Else display not a hex alphanumeric character. You end this. So this type of a statement is called as case with then. That is, this is the case statement. This is with then. Okay, you can Google this. Certain things, if you want a still broader understanding, you can Google and check why we are going for case, why we are going for case with then. So that once when you Google certain things, you'll get some broader understanding of why we are going for the statements. Okay, so this is case with then. Next is case with comma. Okay, just what's the difference? The same statements, but we are going for a comma. That is, you want thing to be displayed with a comma. You use a comma over here. I hope you are able to get the difference. Just what's the previous? We don't use a comma here after a, and whereas here we are using a comma, and that is called as case with comma. Okay, there are so many things. You can use multiple things, but the thing is you have to check whether your what to say compiler has the portability. Okay, you should just cross check and see whether any errors are coming or your compiler is accepting, but these type of things are accepted with the compiler, right? So this is called as case with comma. Okay, and the next thing is case in a single line. So previously what we have been doing is we have been using case in different lines, like so many lines. But there is an option where you can use case in a single line itself. Okay, so this is one example. Like select S